Good morning. This is Lacy Rice Jr. with the Greater Hardin County Women's Network. And today we're talking with Hardin County Clerk Debbie Donnelly about the 2022 general elections that will happen on Tuesday, November the 8th. How you doing this morning, Debbie?
Fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing fine. So we have the general elections coming up, in which pretty much all of our major offices are up for grabs. There are a few races that are non-contested, and so we want to know more about what this election cycle will look like. Things such as how many polling places there will be, where the polling places will be. We still understand, too, though things are better, that we are still in a pandemic, and so we understand that things aren't quite back to to the normal that we had before the pandemic started. So, can you please tell us a bit about what these elections will look like this cycle?
Okay. This November the 8th, you will have 10 voting centers. We had 7 in the May primary, and for 2020, we had 4 total. But for the 10, the locations will be at North Hardin High School, Pritchard Community Center, John Hardin High School, East Hardin Middle School, James T. Alton Middle School, Lincoln Trail Elementary School, Lakewood Elementary School, Creekside Elementary School, West Point School Building, and West 84 Fire Department in Meeting Creek. So what that means is these are voting centers. So you can go to any one of those voting centers and vote. You will get your ballot. So, and the whole family can go. So like we've had instances where people told us, I'm a caregiver for my mother, and I would have to go to my polling location and vote. Then I would have to go pick up my mother and take her to her polling location. Well, now that family can go to one polling location and get their ballot. So the voting centers makes it so much easier. And plus, when we just had precinct locations, we would run into the problem of people going to the wrong precinct. Then they didn't have time to get to their correct precinct. So therefore, they lost their vote. So there's so many pluses with voting centers.
Okay. So, the voting center idea, was that something that came down from the Secretary of State's office?
It was because of the 2020, when the pandemic hit us, we had to think of things to do. And so the voting centers was a great idea. And like I said, in 2020, we had 4 voting centers, and then we had one of the largest turnouts that we had. But it went great, and we got nothing but praise over our voting centers. And I had one person that said, even with the early voting, said, Debbie, I didn't think this would ever work, but this has proved me wrong. So, and people would change. A lot of people, they don't like change. It's hard with change. But once you've done something yourself and you see it for yourself, then that makes you a believer. And that's what that, pandemic really did. And I was an advocate for people that healthcare workers, EMS workers, first responders, your factory workers. Take factory workers, for instance. They get a 15-minute break. Well, you can't get out of your parking lot to go to a precinct and vote, there's no way. And you live in the county, that you live in, so you have to vote within that county. So this early voting it's tremendous. We got about 3 weeks of that in 2020. Well, the legislators now have given us 3 days, but like I said, I was an advocate for, getting the law changed where these individuals could vote. And now they have the early voting, so they can come any one of those 3 days and vote. So it makes it much easier now for those entities to be able to actually vote.
Okay. So is it the 3 business days before the election day? Is that when early voting is, or is that a separate time?
Now, the early voting is on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It's November the 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And our hours are 7:45 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Monday, we leave that open, the whole state does, to deliver their voting machines. So you have that Monday before the actual election day to deliver the voting machines and get those set up and everything ready to go for Tuesday morning for the people that opt to vote on election day. Now, my thing is with election day versus early voting. On early voting, you've got 3 days. So if you choose a day to go vote and something turns up that you can't go that day, then you've got 2 other days or election day. But if you wait until election day, the one day, and something comes up, then you've lost your vote. So, and I want to say too, right now, we have mail-in absentee. You have to fit the criteria for a mail-in absentee ballot. That goes through the 25th. Starting October the 26th, 26th, 27th, 28th, 31st, and November the 1st and 2nd, you can come into our office and vote absentee, and that's excused absentee. Or you can come in on the 3-day unexcused early voting and vote. So you have 4 opportunities. If you meet the criteria of a mailed ballot or in-person absentee ballot here at the clerk's office, or early voting here at the clerk's office, or election day, which is 6 to 6 at any one of the voting locations, voting center locations. So you've got 4 ways there, but people need to take their opportunity to vote early, and then they for sure don't miss getting to vote if they wait for election day. You never know what's going to turn up for one day.
Okay. So what is the process to do the mail-in ballot?
Okay. You have to go on the portal at govote.ky.gov, fill out that information that comes to us, and then we mail you your ballot. Let's say you don't have access to a computer. You can call us or come in, and you give us that information and we fill that out for you. And so then therefore we'll turn around and send you an absentee ballot. Now the in-house absentee ballot, yes, you meet the criteria for that as well. And let's see, I can go over those with you if you want.
Sure.
Okay, let me do the mailed ballot first. It's a resident of Kentucky who is a covered voter, a student who temporarily resides outside the county of his or her residence, and incarcerated in jail and charged with a crime but has not been convicted of the crime, changing or has changed his or her place of residence to a different state while the registration books are closed in the new state of residence before an election of electors for president and vice president. Of course, we don't have that right now. temporary residing outside the state but eligible to vote in this state, prevented from voting in person at the polls on election day and from casting an inexcused or no excused in-person absentee ballot. So what you're saying for the mailed absentee ballot is that you would not be available to come in and vote in person for the absentee, or you would not be able to come in and do the early voting as well. But then we got one that covers that. The next one is a participant in the Secretary of State's crime victim address. Then the eighth one is not able to appear at the polls on election day or the days excused or no excuse. In-person absentee voting is conducted on the account of age, illness, or disability, and who has not been declared mentally disabled by a court. So as long as you age, illness, disability, you can get that mailed absentee ballot. And it's the same criteria for coming in person as well, but the in-person adds to that any election officer that's going to be serving on election day. They can go ahead and do that as well. So like I said, you got so many opportunities to vote, and everyone should want to vote. A lot of people say, well, it doesn't matter what I say because nothing happens. It does matter, because you have a voice then. If you don't vote, you have no voice. So everyone should want to exercise their right to vote.
Okay. Now, as far as the polling places, what is security like at those places, so that voters are not harassed and not being, I don't want to use the word campaign, but candidates not being able to campaign at the polls, and or their advocates not being able to campaign for them at the polls. What's security like at the different poll locations?
Okay. Well, you will have, of course, clerks, judges, and sheriffs, which that is the election officers, what they're appointed to act as of election day. So like at North Hardin and Pritchard Community Center, we'll have 3 acting sheriffs. So anyone that sees anything, they'll ask the voter to not do that. And if they do not respond to them, then they will call us and we will get a deputy sheriff out to whatever voting location that is. And but if you have apparel, your candidate's apparel on that day when you go to vote, that's okay, as long as you go in and vote and leave. If you have stickers on your cars, that's okay, as long as you go in, vote, and leave. Now, you have to be 100 feet from the polling location in order to do any campaign, but no closer. You cannot be less than 100 feet to a polling location. Now, we have people that come in with their apparel on, and has been reported before, and then we've asked them to leave, and they did. Once the sheriff asked them to leave, they would want to stand around and talk. Even when you go in to vote, you are not to talk about who you're voting for, anything about your candidate. If you want to talk about the weather or whatever it may be, let's just say if you did have to stand in line for a minute or two. We're hoping that's not the case, because we're going to have so many voting booths set up at North Hardin and Pritchard Community Center, and all the others as well. So you shouldn't have to stand very long at all to be able to get your ballot and vote. Now, for this election, we got our new election equipment. And so everyone will receive a paper ballot. We used to have the e-scans and e-slates, in which the e-slates was electronic. Well, those are gone now. The state has passed a law where everyone has to have paper ballot machines. And so by next year, they have to have those. And so we went ahead and purchased ours. So we're in compliant. But everyone will get that paper ballot. You'll go into the voting location. You will show your driver's license, and then they will print your ballot for your location. So no matter if you live in Radcliffe, but you work, let's say, in Upton, you could go to the location at Sonora at Creekside Elementary and get your Radcliffe ballot. So you don't have to worry about that. Everyone will get their own ballot. And so, but voting is so easy. And so we're hoping that people will take advantage, of these 4 ways that you could actually be able to vote. And it helps everyone out when people go to vote.
So is it too late for people to register to vote?
No, that deadline actually is October the 11th at 4 p.m. So you can either go online at govote.ky.gov, or you can come into our office and fill out a card, however you want to do that. So you have the different options. And I know some churches are registering people to vote, or if you've got a change of address, change that address. But yes, October the 11th by 4 p.m.
And I don't know if you ever received this particular question, but let's say that an officer from one of the political parties is registering people to vote. Are they allowed to encourage people to vote for their particular party, or are they just supposed to provide the application?
They should just be providing the application. You should not, if you're registering someone to vote, it should not matter what party they are, because no, you're there to just register them to vote.
And in instances like that, when you're registering people to vote, do they return the application to the person who gave it to them, or do they mail it in, or can they drop it off, or
Any of the above. You can mail it, or you can drop it off to our office, or if it's after hours, you're out that night, one night, went to a restaurant or just driving, we have a drop box in front of the building at the front lobby that you can put that in our drop box, and we pick up from that drop box every single day.
okay. Well, and this is another question. In talking about drop boxes, are say that I do receive a mail-in ballot, is it possible to drop it off at the county clerk office?
Yes, it is. We will actually have 2 drop boxes. One will be at our entrance in our foyer, and then the other one will be at the main entrance in the lobby. And those have cameras on them. So 24/7, they have cameras on them. So yes, you can come in. And if someone walked up to us with their ballot, we would say, you have to put it in the drop box yourself. So they're directed to the drop box.
Okay. All right.
So
Well,
now, sorry. Okay,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, on the absentee mail ballots, the voter does have to put postage on their ballot to mail that back to us. And then they have to make sure that they sign the inner envelope and the outer envelope. So they have to make sure they do that.
Okay. Okay. So it does seem like the elections will be simple. And there are, as you mentioned, several ways to vote. And so, really, people don't have an excuse not to vote. Um, and we do appreciate your office, being the conduit for us to vote, of course, and for controlling this mechanism. Um, One final question, and this is sort of like on the current state of affairs with elections. Um, how secure have our past elections been, especially um, in light of certain individuals crying foul, when they didn't win, and even during the primary, several candidates, not in this area, but several candidates around the country, even in their own primaries, claimed election fraud when they lost. How secure historically have the elections been in Hardin County?
Hardin County, great. The state of Kentucky, great. We have a security plan that we have to send into the state. And in Kentucky, yes, we do have people. We've gotten about every county clerk's office has received open records requests wanting information, from the machines and all that. And they want us to hand count ballots. Well, there is no way that you could hand count ballots. You would not be finished by no 6 p.m. on election night, or any time that night. But we tell them, and we've had some individuals to come into the office and talk to us, and we show them how it works. Well, they're satisfied after that. I had one lady that had called, and she says, well, there was fraud in, well, I think it was Campbell County. And I said, no, they had, where they went in and did um, they had to, excuse me, they had to hand count the ballots. And when you have a recount, that individual has to pay for that recount. And it's not cheap, but they had a recount in Campbell County. Well, guess what? It came back one vote difference. And you know why it came back one vote difference? Because the person overvoted. What that means is they struck through 2 boxes. So should they have counted that one the day of the recount? I don't think so, because that was on the voter. They did that. But there you have it. It was one vote. And then, so I asked the person, they said something about Green, LaRue, and Hart. I said, well, if Green, LaRue, and Hart comes back the same, I said, will you praise us on your Facebook? Because that's where they're putting everything. And they said, yes, we will. Well, guess what? The same thing with Green, Hart, and LaRue. One vote overcount. So that's what I tell them. I said, hand counting ballots, that is the best way to buy an election. That, because you can say, hey, I'll give you X amount of dollars, make sure my candidate wins. Or you could show them a picture of your family. And what do you think they're going to think? I've got to think first about my family, not this election. So it's so easy to buy off an election. With machines don't lie, because machines count. That's what they do. So this theory of, and they're doing this because of the other states. And what I am telling them is, you need to be going to the other states and talking to the other states and doing this, not in Kentucky. I said, I've always said, anytime I talk, that other states that have issues, they need to come to Hardin County, or a county in Kentucky, but I always say Hardin County. They need to come to Hardin County, and we will show them how we operate elections in Kentucky. And then therefore they won't have these situations. If they have those situations, I can't say that, here or there, but I just point out that the best way to buy an election would be to hand count ballots. So that should never happen. And but Kentucky does it right, and yeah, we're welcome for other states to come in and talk to us and see how we operate our equipment and how voting goes in Kentucky.
Okay. Well, the last question is also about, I guess you call them witnesses or whatnot, people from particular parties being able to witness the proceedings. I know they have to be pre-approved to do that. And what are they supposed to do?
Okay, their party has to sign them up to be challengers. And when they do that, they have to attend a 2-hour training class, just like the election officers. Election officers have to attend a 2-hour training class to be able to serve, and the challengers have to do the same thing. They have to attend that class.
Okay. And while the challenger is at the polling place, are they allowed? They're not allowed to speak to the voters or anything like that, are they?
They cannot talk politics. They cannot. They're just observing.
Okay. Okay. Well, I think that pretty much answers all the questions. I can't really think of any other questions concerning elections, especially this cycle. And I said, it seems that Hardin County is doing a terrific job. The state of Kentucky as a whole is doing a good job. I know, Secretary of State Michael Adams, who is an elected Republican, has even come out against some of the claims of fellow Republicans concerning the elections in Kentucky. So hopefully, people from both parties will have confidence in the elections here in Kentucky and not fall into some of these traps that have further divided this country. And
That's
so,
exactly right. He's doing a tremendous job, and I want to give praise to him and State Board of Elections and the legislators, that passed the laws for the state of Kentucky, because we're secure, and like I said, we have laws to go by, and we abide by those, and that's what makes things work here in the state of Kentucky. Now, can I back up for just a second, though, Lacy?
yeah.
On your challengers, they could challenge someone that they have moved, they don't live at the address that they say they do. And but then the voter would have to fill out an oath of voter card. But there again, you got the voting centers, and that's what makes everything go. But they could challenge, if someone does live in this state, or if they're registered at a certain address, they could do that. But talking politics, they're not allowed to do that. But yes, anyone can do that, but you have to go through a 2-hour class.
Okay.
But I want to thank you, Lacy, for doing this, because when you can get the word out and people listen to that, that should make them feel better about their elections in this county and in this state. Because like I said, Hardin County does it right, and the state of Kentucky does it right.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for taking out the time to do this. Most people don't know that you arrive very early in the morning to your office, and that we're actually doing this very early in the morning. and you've taken out the time to do it. So we definitely appreciate it. And once again, I will reiterate to voters to listen or watch for information so that they are informed. Do not just listen to what pundits are saying, whether it's on television, in the newspaper, or even in the streets. Educate yourself, become informed, and then make intelligent decisions so that you will have no regrets and no complaints when the election comes. So, with that said, we want to thank you, Ms. Donnelly, Hardin County Clerk, for taking out the time to speak to us today. And we definitely hope that you have a great election cycle, that the elections run smoothly, and that you continue to receive praise in your office for a job well done.
Thank you, Lacy, and thank you again. And anytime, you can call me, anyone can call me, and I'll gladly talk to you and do this.
All right. And well, with that, can you please provide the number that that voters can call?
Yes, 270-765-6762.
All right. Well, thank you once again, Ms. Donnelly. We appreciate it, and have a blessed day.
Thank you, and you as well, Lacy.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.